Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the overview for Microsoft Dynamics 365 for Talent. My name is Michelle Ballinger, and I am the Product Marketing Manager for Talent. And joining me today is Brandon Potter. He is our Principal Product Manager. So I'm going to invite Brandon up on the stage in a little bit to show you guys the product and walk through some different scenarios. But I'm going to start with a little bit of a level set on our product vision and how we're approaching human capital management and talent with our products as part of Dynamics 365. So it wouldn't be a session here at Ignite and Envision if we didn't start with this slide. So it's a requisite here. But I did want to point out that you've probably, in the keynotes, in the sessions that you've been in, you've heard a lot about modern workplace. And you've heard a lot about enabling digital transformation. And what I wanted to do is talk about digital transformation within the modern workplace. And how do you give your employees, specifically, the tools that they need to be successful? So we're really going to delve into empowering employees. And when we talk about empowering employees, historically in Dynamics 365, we've really focused on how do we give employees the tools that they need to provide an extraordinary customer experience, to set up new business models, and to really thrive on the edge of digital transformation, right? Set them up to grow your business. But one thing is missing in that, and that's how do you set your employees up for success? How do you really invest in your employees? Because as we've changed as consumers, we've changed as employees, right? We don't go to work the same way we did even 10 years ago. We don't have the same expectations. And that has really changed the way employees think about the way they work. It used to be that you really looked for the best compensation package. It used to be that you wanted work-life balance, and that benefits were important, and that you really wanted to work for a good company that was going to take care of their employees, right? That was kind of the level set of what you expected from the workplace. And a lot of times we hear talk about millennials. Millennials are changing things, and they want different things. But not to put an age on me, but I'm definitely not a millennial, and I happen to want specific things from employers that are different than I did 10 years ago, 5 years ago. I am net new to Microsoft, so I started about 7 months ago. And when I was looking for a new role, there were things that were on my list of measuring companies against. And the big one is, how is my role going to align with the company's mission and vision and what they were trying to achieve? And did my skill set work for that role? And was I going to be able to step into this role and be impactful very quickly? Or were there additional things that I needed to learn? So that alignment to business impact is something that we approach our jobs with now. We don't want to just go to work, do our tasks, and then leave every day. We want to know that our work has meaning and purpose, not only within the company, but also in the world, right? That impact is really important because we've realized as humans, as people, that we spend a lot of time at work. And that needs to be valuable to us for us to want to invest in a company and invest in our role. And part of that really also comes back to inspirational leadership. So when you looked at that first slide of empowering employees, we're beyond, right, a set of tools that helps us do our job. We want tools that helps us invest in our careers, invest in ourselves, know how our jobs impact the company, the mission and vision. And these changing expectations of employees are changing the way the organization thinks about HR. HR is set up for people management and taking care of people. And their role used to be very transactional. How do you hire people? How do you fire people? How do you retire people? And it's changed. Now, for years and years, HR has been saying we want a seat at the C-level table. We want to be part of that conversation about culture, and about mission and about vision. They wanted to be a strategic partner in the organization, and they fought for that for years and years. In fact, for those of you that are HR experts, how many are familiar with the Ulrich model? Right? This was the basis 20 plus years ago of what was needed for digital transformation in HR. And it was really talking about how do you move from being this personnel management, administrative expert to becoming employee champions and being a strategic partner in the business and being a change agent. Because you can give your employees all the tools, bells and whistles and CRM and ERP, but if they don't stay with your company, then you're not really going to transform your customer service. So HR is looking at this. They're looking at culture. They're trying to be more strategic. But something is holding them back. And when you look at the way HR has kind of built out their architecture, from smaller HR companies to larger companies, if you were to look at Microsoft's technology and the technology that we've added over the last 4 to 5 years as we've gone through our transformation of culture, and Satya leading that change in how we invest in our employees, right? You start with this foundation of tools, and then you put this human capital management, very complex software that's usually integrated with other ERP. And then as they start to tackle these strategic problems in their business, like onboarding and hiring, right? They really look at them as these are problems in our business, not these are the ways that we're investing in our employees, and we need technology that's really going to empower our employees to take ownership of this. And so this complexity has led to the same problem that we had 20 years ago with CRM and ERP, of we have data all over the place. And I know many of you in the room, because I talked to a few of you before the session, your job is to pull all of this data together. And your HR team has gone rogue, and they're adding software applications all over the place. And you're looking at this very complex architecture, and you're thinking, our process is pretty simple, but we have all these different tools, we have all this data, and we don't truly have the insights we need to drive change. And so when Microsoft started looking at our HR software and human capital management, we didn't want to tackle it as, let's just build another HCM. We really wanted to take a new approach. And being in marketing, I have to give it a fancy name. So it's what I call empowerment HR. And it's the thought of moving beyond strategic HR, because that's table stakes now. And how do you really empower your leaders, your teams, and your employees with the tools they need to become an active part of your HR organization? So they own their career. They own their development. Hiring managers own hiring the right people. They're the experts on the skills and competencies that they need for their team. Does it really make sense to keep standing up all these different teams in order to do that when there's just too much complexity in that process? So empowerment HR is kind of the product strategy or the vision that we're using when we think about how do we kind of turn HR software on its head and redevelop applications that can truly serve the business and serve your employees and take that different approach. And so this is kind of the way I envision the model. It starts always with data, pulling all of the data together. We have the common data service for that here at Microsoft, and the new tools that you'll see Brandon demonstrate today are built on top of that. So I know that in the keynote and in James Phillips' session, you heard about talent being offered as modular applications. And that's something that really fits into this, because when you look at that very complex architecture for HR, the thought of ripping that out and replacing it with something completely new, the disruption to your employee base and therefore the disruption to your customers is extreme. So our thought is, okay, let's let you tackle one employee experience at a time and really think about that experience from multiple perspectives. Yes, HR and administrative HR and how HR gets strategic with having the right data to truly build a strategic connected program, but also from the employee perspective and from the leadership perspective and from the manager's perspective. So when you look at over here with business strategy, business environment, and operational excellence, this is really where HR lives today. And they try to do some of the talent experiences and they build them, but whether they are executed well is kind of left to managers, and there's not really any one sales team maybe running well and performing well, but another's not, and they don't really know why. And so when you look at what Brandon is demoing today, think about this model and how with HR living over here with thinking about business strategy and how do we align people to vision? How do we align people to mission? Where are we in our culture today? Where do we need to be? How do we get there? How do we build a business environment to get us there? And business environment is everything from, the life-work balance and people working from home and people desks and access to resources and organizational structure. And then how do we build these connected strategic programs that are cost effective, right? Ultimately, it's still about OpEx. And IT can work with HR in there. But on the other side, it's really thinking about leaders and managers. How do managers build highly productive, impactful teams? Let's give them the tools and give them the accountability for that, because they ultimately own it, and allow them to handle hiring, engagement, and how they help their employees thrive. And even one step further, let's give employees the tools where they can own those stages as well and give them the responsibility for saying, this is where I am in my career today. I have this great career map. I can see the skills that I need to go to the next level, and I can tackle the learning to get there. So that's really what Empowerment HR is all about. It's taking strategic HR programs and putting a framework in place where the leaders and the managers can execute upon a connected talent experience. And so when you look at Microsoft Dynamics 365 and the way it's been built out with these purpose-driven applications in different areas, with the surrounding Microsoft technology to build it up, with integration to LinkedIn and Office 365, and the extensibility model with Power Apps and Power Flow and the Common Data Service. Dynamics 365 is the newest member of this family, and so we've had the opportunity to take advantage of a lot of the new stuff that other teams are doing within Microsoft, and you'll see that when Brandon shows the product today. And the way we're looking at it is, how do we put people at the center of the talent experience and really stop looking at HR from a process and technology point of view and start looking at it with people first. And you'll see here that you can have the best of both worlds. You can have this comprehensive HCM system that stands up for that entire model if you're ready to rip and replace, or if you're just ready to tackle hiring and onboarding, you can do that with the modular apps and build that as you go, and eventually have an architecture that uses a common data. But because the modular apps are built on the common data service, you can plug them into your architecture. So you can continue to use your system of record for core HR and plug into that and get the rich processes for your teams and really reinvent hiring and onboarding. So I know that you heard the Chemonic stories in one of the sessions, but I did want to touch upon this just quickly. Chemonics worked with us throughout the development process of the product, and were very early adopters of the new functionality in Dynamics 365 for Talent. And they are an international developer that focuses in on projects across the world in developing nations. So a lot of times their locations don't have the technology and communication tools that they need to keep in contact. So who they hire is very, very important. And when we first started talking to them, their big challenge was they had very specialized needs for their talent. They needed people who spoke the local language, which is very hard to find. They needed people who had the ability to be in these developing nations and execute projects well and bring that data back into the system if they weren't connected at the time. And they had a bunch of recruiters globally. They weren't connected. Hiring managers were giving their information over to the recruiters. Recruiters were trying to find people. The time to hire was extensive, making the cost to hire just out of control. And they weren't able to then serve their customers well. So they wanted to tackle and really innovate the whole hiring process and how they got people onboarded. And so we worked with them, and now they're able to easily find the right people, get them up to speed, and deployed on these projects throughout the globe. And I'm going to invite Brandon up on stage, and he's going to walk you through some of those processes that got them there.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
So as Michelle said, we've set out with a whole new way of looking at talent and managing your talent. Again, bringing it back to being people-focused and people-centric. We've worked with LinkedIn, we've worked with our office groups, we've worked with a number of teams across Microsoft to bring the products together, to bring that process and put it in the hands of hiring managers, recruiters, interviewers, and all of the folks that are involved in that process, including the candidates themselves in the hiring phase. I'm starting out here today in Dynamics 365 for Talent, Attract. So as Michelle alluded to, we have these modular applications. So we have 3 applications today. Additional applications will be coming out to complete the entire life cycle of the talent experience. Attract is the app that fits into our recruiting space. Onboard is an app that fits into that space to help that employee socially and successfully onboard into the organization. And then we have our core HR application, which is that administrative, strategic HR application, but again, reimagined to be people-focused, people-centric, so that we can take away and help the HR professionals get their job done today. As we've gone through this, typically in the recruiting process, there's a sourcing stuff. You would have started in LinkedIn, and in the short time that we have today here, I'm starting directly in Dynamics 365 for Talent. Right here, immediately, we're hiring for a data scientist position, and here we have Cameron Levine. He's one of the applications that we found on LinkedIn, brought into the system, and are ready to take him through that hiring process as we go. I'm wearing the hat of a hiring manager today. I could be a recruiter as well. Either way, our system is flexible to meet your needs. But one of the big pain points that we hear is that hiring managers often, how many of you are hiring managers in the audience or manage other folks? Fair number of you there. As you're hiring, a lot of the times, I don't know if you work with recruiters, but sometimes there's kind of this communication gap between you and your recruiters. You don't know what the pool of candidates coming in, who to talk to. You don't know the status of those candidates, where they're at. This tool is the tool that's really designed for you as a hiring manager, because you actually now help own this process. It's not up to the recruiter with this waterfall effect where it comes down. You work collaboratively with your recruiter as you're in here. So as a hiring manager or recruiter, I'm in the system here today looking at the record. With LinkedIn integration, we can see the profile view that my recruiter sees directly in LinkedIn Recruiter. How many of you guys use LinkedIn Recruiter today? Again, a fair number of hands. So LinkedIn Recruiter is an amazing tool for out there to be out there searching and finding candidates. LinkedIn has today over 500 million profiles out there to search, and we help enable that and bring that. Later this fall, over the next couple of months here, we'll actually be bringing additional functionality to Talent, where when you're in LinkedIn Recruiter or a candidate is out there searching for a job, that'll automatically bring their profile directly into Talent. So that's something we continue as we work with LinkedIn to bring more and more integration together. That is coming this fall when we get there. The nice thing about this view here is whether I am the recruiter, the hiring manager, or even the interviewer, I can see this rich recruiter experience of the full profile capability that my recruiters typically only have when they are in the LinkedIn side. But here we're looking at Cameron. Also, we know there's other documents. With Office integration, we have all of the documents embedded in here, so resumes, cover letters, anything that you want to see about that part. But to fast forward here, we see that Cameron has actually kind of come in. He's already gone through an assessment stage, the screening stage, and he's ready to actually schedule with the interview. So with that, I'm going to switch over here to the interview stage, and we're going to go ahead and schedule him on that interview. Now, what we've already done here is we've actually already worked with the candidate. So here is up above here. I won't be showing too much of the, I'm going to be focused more kind of the internal facing side in this session. We have another session tomorrow where I'm going to be focused more on the employee, the manager, and the candidates facing side, and I'll give you details about that session tomorrow. But what we are able to do is work with the candidate. After they apply, they get a link to log into the system. They can see the availability. We let them know the days we're going to be doing interviews. They can work back and forth along their timeline. And once we have the date worked with them in the system, we can come in and schedule that interview. So from here, we're able to set the time zone, the duration. I put together the hiring team here, added everybody that I want to be interviewing Cameron. And we have the ability to schedule these interviews and add Skype meeting for those if it's going to be away. Or not an in-person interview. We can do one-on-one panel-style interviews. So today we're going to do one-on-one interviews for an hour each. I've also told the system to keep the interviewers in order because I want these interviews to take place in a specific order. You can see that I could move them up and down if I wanted to do so. And we're going to go ahead and find the schedule. So with integration with Office 365 Exchange, we actually reach out to the 4 interviewers, look into their calendars, and are able to see their free busy time. So you can see the light blue sections, their calendars are already booked. But the system, because we told the order that we wanted the interviews to take place, we told it, the order, and to keep them in that order, it's automatically found a schedule that works for them. We can go ahead and send that schedule off to those interviews. They're going to get a calendar invite like any other invite that they would get. They can accept and decline that through Outlook on their mobile. And once that comes back directly here in the application, we can track their acceptances or rejections of those meeting invites here. So we see everybody's come back except for Reka here. Reka declined. I talked to her offline. It's just that she can't do it in person, so we'll go ahead and just keep her in there and do that Skype meeting. So at this point, I'd send that schedule back out to the candidate. The candidate, again, logging into the app, can see that. Now, one other big pain point for the candidate side is oftentimes interviewing and applying for a job seems like a black hole for candidates. You know, they'll hear from you once, and then there's a long time before they hear from you again. They don't really know what's going on in the process that they're in. So when they log into the application, they can always clearly see the stage that they're in, where they're at, and there's a collaborative experience with that candidate at that point. So as we do this, now we're ready to send this. We would go ahead and send this off to the candidate, and he'd get the schedule. He would be able to see the list of the people he's interviewing with, get to their LinkedIn profiles, understand who he's going to be interviewing with that day. That way he doesn't, you know, come to interview day and now it's like that blind date experience where he has no idea who he's going to be meeting with, and he really can't focus on what matters of how well he could do that job in representing himself. So we've helped to bring that together. Now that is optional. I could turn that off and not send that. But fast forward in time, interview day comes here. Now we're ready to actually record the feedback for those interviews. So this is another pain point where, as a hiring manager, you want to make sure that all of your interviewers are getting that feedback in. You want to see the results of that. So as they finish those interviews, whether they're on their mobile or any other device, they can quickly log into the system, enter that feedback, and capture it here. So here I am as the hiring manager. I've just finished my interview for Cameron. I've entered my feedback. I can capture some strengths and weaknesses and just make a recommendation like any of the interviewers could make that recommendation. Would they hire them or would they not? So I'll go ahead and submit my feedback here. And then just as a hiring manager, I see that Reka, Jacob, and Hilda have already submitted their feedback. I could go through, see their feedback, and just continue them along the process. So from here, Cameron's the guy that we want to hire. I could go ahead and move him into that offer stage. We don't do full offer management today. That is coming in a couple of months where you'll be able to actually templatize the offer. It'll work with your core HR system to pull that position data into fixed letters and distribute that with electronic signing. That's coming in a couple of months. That'll be plugging into that offer stage here. But the next stage after you get Cameron hired and he's ready to go is that onboarding stage. So we're ready to get timed out here. So give me just 1 second. So here we are in the second application of Dynamics 365 for Talent, our onboard experience. So here we have a guide for Cameron already created. And what this allows us to do, this is an experience for a hiring manager to come in, create a welcoming experience, a guide for Cameron to not only fill that welcome, but also have a set of activities that he could do to be successful in the organization. Oftentimes when we hear the word onboarding, everybody's mind immediately shifts to the administrative onboarding tasks, filling out your payroll paperwork, picking your benefits, all those administrative tasks that are typically assigned by the HR department, right? Nowhere, usually you don't hear about what does it take as a hiring manager for you to get that person up and running and into that position successfully and quickly. So again, making it a personal experience for Cameron. Now, while we're able to templatize these processes, you can still personalize and tailor it to each individual candidate, new hire. The other, what did I click? That was fun. So here we are in the activity. So you see I can basically build this schedule out. I can set different sections in here. So you have the section of before your first day, your first week, your first month. You can configure out however you want that to be. But the idea is we get this guide into their hands the second that they, or shortly after the point that they've accepted that offer. Oftentimes there's a large period of time from the time that they accept that offer to when they actually walk in the door on day one. You need to keep them warm and engaged because that is a period of time that you still are susceptible to lose that candidate to a competing offer. So making this experience, keeping them engaged through this, but it's not about activities also, it's also about the people and the network that they need to build out to be successful. So here you can just give them a list of people that they're going to be working with. This might be the team that they're working directly on. It could be other people in cross teams that they need to work with or project teams that they need to work with to get to know. So you can give them a list of people here to be able to work with. Now, we have resources as well. So not only can we just go explicitly add resources such as documents and things like that to their guide, but we actually can put those in the context of the activities. So if we look at this background check, for example, here, we've actually come in, we've given a nice message, and here we can add resources such as files, links, maps, etc. To this application and to this experience for Cameron as he starts his new job. Now let's take a look at Cameron's experience. When we send this guide out to him, he's going to log in. He'd log in with his LinkedIn credentials, his Gmail credentials, his Microsoft credentials, whatever his personal credentials are, he could log into this guide and start before he even has his company credentials, his organization logins. So as he looks at this guide, he sees that nice welcome message. He can see the activities that he's got down below. He can mark those complete, expand the details. And here's a background check where we can pop out to that background check provider and get that activity rolling for him as well. One thing we're working with a number of third-party providers, service providers out there in the background and assessment and verification space where eventually we're actually going to have a plug-in model where anybody can plug in activities into this that pop out to those external systems. So this will be an extensible application from that standpoint to all the various service providers out there. So as we then come across, we look at the contacts. So here Cameron can see his contacts. We see the 4 that I told him that he should be able to get to know and understand. But down below, this is a feature that we're bringing later this fall as well here, is this notion of suggested contacts. So through all of the information that we know about Cameron, through his LinkedIn profile, through other people that we know at the company, through people that are here that from their HR record, from their Office 365 profile, projects that they work on, hobbies that they have, specialties that they have, and all of that information, we can graph that together and understand where are the connection points. It's more than just Cameron has them as they're following them on LinkedIn. It's not just a direct connection. But here we can actually look at the data and understand in their HR record or in LinkedIn, we can see that they went to the same school together and their time periods may have aligned. Can we say that, hey, maybe you know this person, maybe you should reach out to them, help them form a connection and a network within the new company, again, help them feel welcome and successful as they go. So a number of scenarios, just a few here that we're thinking about, such as where they've gone to school with, maybe they've worked with them in the past. Another very important one is people that are in the organization that are hired for the same position or same job title. So maybe there's other data scientists he could get to know. So just other means of helping him be successful. So those are just kind of some quick high levels of the first 2 apps, Attract and Onboard experience. That are available. Right now, Dynamics 365 for Talent is a holistic solution where when you buy talent, you get Attract, Onboard, and the core HR application. But as James talked about how many of you attended James Phillips' keynote yesterday, or general session? And I believe Mohammed Alam, our general manager, also talked about it with Mike Ehrenberg yesterday. And there's a press release as well that went out. But now, starting in the next couple of months, Attract and Onboard will actually be offered standalone applications where you can buy just Attract or just Onboard and use those experiences. As Michelle pointed out, using the Common Data Service, you can use these on top of your existing system of records. So if you already have an applicant tracking system in place or another core HR system of record in place. You can use these experiences. You can plug them into the common data, your system of record into the common data service, and use these in a bidirectional way so that you can have this rich, modern experience on top of your existing systems until you're ready to move forward with the rip and replace model or so forth, or maybe you never decide to do that. I'm going to switch gears here now and focus the rest of the demo on the HR professional. So as an HR professional, you've typically, as Michelle pointed out, been focused on that transactional nature, kind of in the weeds down in there. We need to get them out and help them be more personal, get their job, and get forward so that they can enable everybody to do the jobs and help them get that done. So I'm starting out here in our core HR application here on our personnel management page. Now, historically, a lot of the times in many systems you go and you need to hire a new person, you start out in some list view or something like that where you're just going to go add a new person in here. Well, here we already have activities suggested to them that they need to monitor and may need to account for. So here, because somebody hired this new candidate through the Attract experience, we can see Cameron Levine already showing up in here as we've hired him. We need to now create his core HR record and get him up and running in the core system. Down below, further, additional things that we can do. Maybe we have people that we've already added to the system, but they're going to be starting at a future date. So these are people in that in-between space. We may need additional information to track what's going on with their record to keep that in motion. Recent hires, just recently started, but maybe still additional work again. But then there's also the other end of the spectrum. Who's going to be leaving the organization? What do we need to do to transition them out of the organization and help them successfully exit? And then those that recently exited, there's usually reporting or things that we may need to do to help as they leave the company. But we have these different stages to be able to see who and which employees are in those stages to help help an HR professional keep tabs on what's going on. But as we hire Cameron here, we're going to just go ahead and create his record. We could actually assign him to a position. Just searching all of the open positions. We have a lot of data scientist positions open up. And then we can actually assign a checklist to him. So what is a checklist? This is where the administrative onboarding and things like that come into play. So HR has a number of tasks that have to happen, and it's not just HR, it's facilities, it's IT. Other areas of the organization, besides the employee of what they need to do themselves, they have activities that they need to do to make sure Cameron is set up in all of the right systems. Maybe there's different tasks and so forth. So you can put together these checklists of activities and who is responsible for completing those activities. And as you're hiring a new employee, you can assign these different checklists. So in this example, we have an all employees checklist. Regardless of where they're at in the globe, everybody's going to get that checklist. We have our US only employees. So these are those US specific tasks that we're going to go ahead and assign to Cameron. So here we're going to go ahead and hire him. And now as we do that, we have to give it all the right information. I think I hit a delete button there. This is what happens when you run the demo over again. You get to add another Cameron in here. So we have duplicate detection so you don't hire the same person twice. And that's what's going on there. So when we're looking at Cameron's record here, there's a lot of details that you have to track on your employees. Obviously, there's not a lot we can do to get rid of tracking that information. But the more information that you capture up in the Attract application, when we have all of that candidate's profile information, that of course is going to sweep into the HR, so you're just avoiding the dual entry. Again, eventually, if you're further up when we release that ability for the Cameron to push his profile from LinkedIn, all of that profile information coming into Attract and then down into core HR and et cetera, as we're going down through that. Now, the next thing about being able to track all the information, oftentimes we don't have all of the fields that you need to track. Maybe you're in a specialized industry or in a special geography in the world where you have to track an additional bit of information that's specific to your organization so that you can do that. So it used to be in many systems that was a developer experience to go in and extend the application, add the field to the database, expose it in the UI. What we've done with the core HR application is they added the ability for an HR manager, somebody that's kind of not an IT admin, but they're an HR power user, if you will, or something like that, that can come in and track more information on the worker record in general. So here I've added actually 2 new fields to the worker entity. Dietary restrictions and whether or not they're a smoker, it's an often thing that you have to track. But as we look at dietary restrictions, I've made it a list type option. So you've got numeric, text, list, all of your typical data types you can set these to, and I've put my list in here. And I've told it to go ahead and add this field to the form. So now, when I come back to my worker form and see all the details about my worker, I can come down into this additional information, and I can see these fields that I've added and just go ahead and select this. That way we're tracking that information on their fields. So if you're familiar with, I'm just gonna kind of take a step back for just a second here and talk about the nerdy stuff under the hood here a little bit. But Dynamics 365 for Talent Core HR is actually built on the same framework as Unified Operations, as Finance and Operations. Are you guys familiar with Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations? So it's sitting on top of that same framework. So all of the data import, export framework and ability to move the data in and out of the system exists here. And this additional fields actually works with that as well. So as you need to integrate this data outside to other components, you can do so. Now, of course, it's also in the CDS. So once we get to the full data synchronization with the CDS with this, all of these fields will be in the CDS. And it'll automatically extend the common data model as well when you're adding them here. So just a little bit on how we're going to how you can extend that information for doing that. Now, if you recall, when I actually hired Cameron, we added that checklist to him. So these are the activities that everybody in the organization, so we just kind of blasted those checklists out to IT to get his machines ordered and get in licensing rights to the right applications and added to AAD, et cetera, and facilities to get his desk set up, what have you. But how are we tracking it? How do we keep track that those activities are actually getting completed? So here we have actually the ability for this task management workspace in Core HR where your HR managers can come in, and here we see Michael Redmond, another employee that recently started in the organization, and we can see his onboarding checklist. So here we have a number of different checklist types. We have onboarding checklists, offboarding checklists, and transitions. And in a little bit, I'll talk about a fourth one here that we have that's not really employee specific. So here I'm looking at all my onboarding checklists. And down below, I can see all of those tasks. I can see who it's assigned to and manage that. Of course, people go on vacation and leave, and sometimes I have to override the workflow behind all of this. I can quickly come in and reassign and move these around if an activity needs to happen by other people. So I can completely manage this process in one nice place to be able to get to make sure that things are moving along so that when Michael, as he's going along, he's going to have success and not run into roadblocks in his onboarding experience. One of the next experiences that we have here, again, bringing it to be a people-focused experience. So oftentimes, as an HR professional, when you want to pull up your workers and you need to find somebody, you've got this long list and you got to search for them in that list and find them in rows, columns, etc. We've personalized and made that experience more people-friendly here. So here, I've come into our people workspace, basically. And on the left, you can see basically the organization hierarchy. I can see where it logs in. It's coming to myself initially here. I can see that I report to Charlie. I have my direct reports, and then I'm also an M2 manager, a level 2 manager, and they have two of my folks on my team also have their own team. So I can drill around this and find the folks and drill down into his team, etc. But what I'm seeing here is all of the information that I may need to see about this individual. So as I look at here, I can see their status with the company. I can get to their contact information quickly. Depending on my rights and securities in the system, I can even see if I was an HR professional come in, I'm going to see some of that more secure, more private data about the employee that I may need to help manage and so forth. I can quickly jump right into his employee record to manage that. One of the most common things an HR professional has to do is do those verification of employments, right? You've got lenders and everybody calling you up. So right here, you can quickly search for somebody, hit the verify employment button, and right in from the right, you're going to see all of the information that you're typically going to have to answer in those verifications without having to drill into the system. It's really quick and easy for you to get to that from there. But it's not just that. You can actually get in here and manage a lot of the core things. Maybe you need to change their position, transition, and kick these other processes off all from right here on this people screen. So it's really a 360 view of talent, allowing you to have that modern people-focused experience as we go through that. I'm going to jump over and show you the next experience here again. So I'm going to jump to my phone. So as an employee, in the organization, I have access to the Dynamics 365 for Talent app. So this is an app that goes along with the core HR aspect of Talent. Just a note on mobile here really quick. The Attract and the onboarding experiences do not have native mobile applications. Those are built as completely responsive apps. So regardless of where you're at as a hiring manager, a recruiter, a candidate, you log into that application in your mobile device's browser, and then it will scale and adjust appropriately for that device. So we will not have native mobile apps for those. But the core HR application, again, because it is built on the operations framework, it follows the same model where you would download that application. And here we have these the same workspaces that I was going through just a moment ago in the main application. I can see some of those same things directly from my mobile. So here I have the company directory. I need to come in, search for people. Maybe I need to find Brandon here. I can come in, find that, get to his details quickly, see the department, his contact information, and I'm getting a network issue here. Other things, just as an employee, I have my own access to my own self-service information. So you can see the information, a lot of the same stuff that we talked about. Sorry? Yeah. Well, it's Airplane, but I'm on Wi-Fi. This is a device that doesn't have a real carrier. This isn't my regular device. So, but you can kind of get the idea from, even as a manager, I can see the team. So here's my direct team. I can click into Benjamin, or I can actually click into his reports as well. So I can see all of the information that you would normally see. I apologize, I don't know what's going on with the connection. Let me try something here. There we go. All right, so here I am back to employee self-service. I can see all my details as an employee about my own record, my compensation, contact information, etc. Right now, this is read-only, but it will be updatable on the mobile. If they were to go to the main, go directly to the main application from a desktop, they can edit and maintain all of that. I'll actually be showing more of the employee experience tomorrow in the session. That's kind of the session that's more looking at it from more the employee angle than this session will be here. But let's see, go back over here. So as we come back in here, the next piece, I showed you those checklists for onboarding, offboarding, transitions, and so forth. The fourth list that I mentioned are the business processes. So as an HR department, oftentimes there's a lot of things that you need to do to keep strategically aligned to your organization, as well as be forward-looking and help make sure that the company remains compliant and on task for a lot of those things that you need to do. So one of the things that you often need to do in that regard is something like an HR audit. You need to audit the processes and the capabilities that you're doing in your HR department to ensure that everything is maintaining and working along in a compliant way. So we have this new functionality which we refer to as business processes. So I'm going to go into the setup of this just a little bit to show you where this comes from. So here you can set up these process administration. So what I've done here is I've created a template for an HR audit. So over to the right, called it an HR audit. Over to the right, we have all of the tasks and activities that we need to do in order to have a successful audit. We set up who's responsible for that. It may be an individual, it may be a role or something like that. So we can be very explicit how we want to do this. But we also want to say, what is the due date offset? So every time we want to execute this template and run an HR audit, we'll run it and we'll say, what's the date that we want to complete this audit? And from there, with this date offset, it's automatically going to set all the due dates as it rolls and assigns all of these tasks. So just to take a step back now, what I've done is I've actually come over here, and you see, to start up one of these, all I have to do is say new, pick the, oops, not a new task. From that template, I could actually start a process, specify the date like I mentioned, and away I go. I've already done that now at this point here. So you see that I've got an HR process kind of already, HR audit already running and in the works here. I see everybody's moving along. I have got this one set up to be completed by November 1st. And here I can manage everybody's tasks and make sure everybody's on task. I could reassign the task again. It's all standard workflow that you would need to do to make sure that this is moving along. So you can imagine the business process is, it's not just like HR audits. Maybe it's time to get ready to set up for your open enrollment period. So your benefits manager needs to set up a process for checking with my benefits provider. This is typically going to start maybe even 4 months before that process, working out the new packages for the new year, working on the budget, working on these things. So it's not just HR that gets involved in these. You may have finance that gets involved in these and other HR managers. So you can really use these processes to help manage all of that work to help the company align strategically. Again, back to the notion that with HR being part of the C-level suite in many organizations as a CPO, they need to be strategically aligned, and these HR processes are going to help them do so. The last thing I'm going to show you in the system, in the core HR aspect of this, is that piece that HR needs to be able to be successful and keep moving forward. So in order to know where we need to go, we need to know what's going on with the organization. So analytics is a very important piece of the puzzle for an HR professional. Throughout this system, here I am on the personnel management screen where we were at originally, we have this analytics tab that's built directly into that. So using embedded Power BI capability, we've built out a large set of reports and dashboards in here that already show you a lot of your metrics about your people because we're on the personnel management space, for example. So we can maintain our headcount, we can see our distribution of employees, et cetera. But there's a number of reports as we move along here through headcount analysis and so forth. These are out-of-the-box reports that deliver the automatically run without needing any special licensing for Power BI to do this. This just comes with the product, it's embedded, and directly working on your data there. In the very near future, this will actually be extensible so that you can actually come in and add your own reports and KPIs to this as well. But personnel management isn't the only place. I mentioned it exists throughout the system here. So let's take learning, for example. A lot of the times you need to manage all the learning paths and the careers and what your employees are doing in the system here. So here we can get an overview of where our learning. Don't have a lot of data set up in this system here for learning, but here we can see the number of courses offered. We can see the courses attended by jobs, and just look at the analysis of these courses. So a lot of rich analytical information showing you all of the different aspects of your HR profile, your employees, from learning to benefits to compensation to just the management of their personnel records. You're able to quickly see snapshots and see the data and see how we're progressing and moving against aligning our HR department with the strategic and with the forward-looking views of the organization to help keep them and set them up for success. So with that, that's the demo. That ends the demo for today. I'm going to actually step back over to the slides now. Hope I'm clicking the right button. I forgot the number. Okay. All right. And what I want to do is just spend a little bit of time and talk to you where we're going. So as I've gone through the demo here, I've talked a lot about what we have in the product today. I've also talked to some of the things that I've alluded to some of the things that we've got coming up in the future. I'm going to go over our roadmap, and this roadmap is specific to what we plan to deliver between now and the end of this calendar year in talent. With that, I never get to this slide. I just jump right in. So with this roadmap, I've divided it into the 3 sections. So as we look at the Attract experience, the first thing that we'll be working on and that's in active development right now is the ability to post to job boards. So as a recruiting solution, you need to be able to create your job, post that out. Of course, working with LinkedIn is where this will start. We'll post that job out to LinkedIn. We're working with other job boards to get those posted out there, and we'll have an API as well so that if you need access to that and to be able to push that into another site of your own, you would be able to do that there as well. You'll be able to customize that hiring process. So as you saw that I took Cameron through that stage of he applied, he went through an assessment, screening, and so forth. That entire process will be completely configurable. You can hide and remove those sections, put in new sections or stages if you want to. But more importantly, within a stage, you'll be able to actually segment the activities that happen. So we're working with some third-party providers I mentioned earlier for assessments and background checks and things like that, where you can actually plug different activities in along the way. Maybe early on in the process, you need a stage of visa verification. So you'll be able to plug in a provider to an outside visa verification. And that, again, that experience would route out to the candidate. He would click that and go to that visa verification so that you can come back and know whether you're able to continue conversing and considering that candidate. But the activities and the stages will help this become very flexible and tailor that to your process and the needs that meet your specific organizations. It'll be a templatable process, so if you have one process for, say, your sales folks in the organization, and another process for, say, your IT staff. You can create different processes and stages that you would need to do to go through that. The next one is the candidate pool. So this is a really a great tool for hiring managers. So as a hiring manager, how many of you have your little network of people, your go-to, the people you know that you want, really wish you could always hire, but you never have the right headcount, but when that headcount comes up, you have your list of people you want to go to. How many of you keep that little private list and don't share it with the rest of your hiring managers? See, you can be honest. I know a lot of people do this, right? But it's not just that. And I mean, you've got your go-to people, but the candidate pool is the ability for not just the hiring manager to make a list of candidates and bring them in the system, but this is also where any candidate that has gone through an interview process or applied for a position at your organization, this is basically the Uber list of candidates, where hiring managers, recruiters alike, can search this list, maintain a relationship with these candidates, and keep them kind of in their list. They can tag them. So again, if you're going through the hiring process, you hire that number one candidate, he's good, but just in case that number two was just as good and you had that hard time picking, you want to mark that second one as a silver medalist, runner-up, whatever you call that in the system, you can tag them as such and track them. You know, maybe something falls through on that one that you offered the position to. Maybe you have another position open up. You can quickly fill that position if it was in the right time frame. So you can track and tag these folks in this candidate pool functionality. Yeah, was there a question?
So you've got candidate pools in the future.
This is, yep.
Now, so I have to assume that currently it's just everybody who had access to all of these titles.
So right now, actually, there's not a way in the system to go look at your candidate list. Right now, it's very job focused. So as a hiring manager, you have an open job. You go to the job and you see the candidates that have applied for that job. So think about it as turning it around. Now you have the list of candidates and you can see their application history. That's kind of what this is doing. So, and plus allowing you all the ability of searching it, being alerted and notified when a candidate comes into the system that might be of interest to you, and so forth.
Is there a hierarchy in terms of what's currently there, or plan for the pools where the higher or say a division or a region may have access to their candidates but don't want to see them?
So those are things we're considering on how we can segment these pools of candidates, and you know, back to I as a hiring manager want to just hide my own little list to maybe a division or department wants to do the same. So we're considering all of those things as we build this out. Yeah. The enhance your candidate's experience. So I'll be showing the candidate experience heavily in tomorrow's session, where I'll actually take a step and go through this process. But I'll be changing hats between the candidate and the hiring manager as we go, and you'll see their side of the experience when we get there. As we get into that, right now that is kind of, it's one look, one UI, it's not brandable. Very near, you'll be able to add your logo, your color themes, and make it look like your experience, because hiring is just like trying to sell to customers. You need to sell to the candidates. You need to carry your brand awareness to those candidates and keep that along the way. So making it a branded, enhanced experience throughout the candidates, in the interaction that you have with that candidate is very, very important. Internal mobility is another big area for companies. So how many of you have, you know, this typically maybe for larger organizations, but oftentimes it's difficult for employees to grow their career, see what's out there and opportunities. So we'll have the ability for internal career sites with search, basic stuff here. And candidates could create saved jobs profiles and watch for awareness of new opportunities opening up. We're also working with the Office 365 team to be able to integrate that and experience into the Office 365 profile cards. So if you're familiar with the profile cards, when you hover over somebody's profile, oftentimes you can see their organization. In the near future, open positions will show up in there. So if a hiring manager, if me as an employee just love that guy over there, I really want to work for him, I can watch for that open position. If I see it in there, I can click on it and start applying directly from within Office. So deep integration in that experience. We're also looking at other enhancements in Office to extend that profile card with tabs that are specific to talent information and information coming out of talent, not just during the recruiting process, but other information from their HR records and so forth. The internal mobility also has this hiring manager view. So again, they can get recommendations for candidates that come into the system to understand internal candidates. So back to that employee or that candidate pool concept. We actually look at that kind of blending with this one a lot too, because The way we actually look at it is that candidate pool will not just be pure candidates. It'll also be a blend of all your employee records as well. So when you're searching that candidate pool, you can search and you can see all of the talent that you have in the organization, outside of the organization, and blend that together. One way that we'll be able to do that is as we come across and you get your list of candidates, oftentimes you may not be hiring for a position, but you might be trying to just find people in the organization because you're trying to put together a project team. You don't know the skills. Back to the Chemonics example that Michelle talked about earlier, a lot of the times they don't have open headcount to go into these new areas, and they don't have the funding to be able to just hire. They have to use existing people that they have in their system. But it's really hard for a lot of employers to really understand what the talent pool looks like within their organization, and that's what this is going to help. So you'll be able to search across the organization, look for certain skills, job history. This will pull data from LinkedIn, Office 365, and the employee to build a unified profile about your employees, to be able to understand everything about them, to know would they be a great fit for this position over here. Maybe they speak that special language that you need in a faraway land to be able to do that water improvement project over there or something like that. And not everybody's that extreme, but oftentimes many employers, and we hear it time and time again, it's very difficult to understand what talent we have already on staff and how we can best utilize and get people into the positions that really will help them shine and do the best in their jobs. So a lot of the times employees, they're great employees, they may be in the wrong position, or than that we can help them through this. Other features around this would be able to find a similar employee. Michelle is awesome. I want to duplicate Michelle. So I want to pull her record up and say, do I have other people in my candidate pool or in my employee that are like Michelle to help me fill this role? Maybe she's going on leave or something and I need a backfill for that position temporarily. So being able to find by doing profile matches, I can do that with this capability. We'll be able to hire multiple candidates. Right now you have one job opening, you get one output that'll allow for mass hire projects very soon in the near future. Again, bringing the branded experience not just to the candidate's experience, but to the app itself for your managers and recruiters alike. Extensibility is a very big point here. So I want to talk about really these apps, all of Talent, while the core piece is built on the finance and operations platform, it is a completely sealed environment. We don't allow you to get to the code of that. These are true SaaS products. We've actually just used the underpinnings of that to build the system, but we've sealed it off and it's deployed and provisioned in such a way that it's actually a unified service across everybody. So it's true SaaS across all of these applications. While the Attract and the Onboard apps are built directly on the CDS, they're still true SaaS. We update these apps very regularly and push them up like most SaaS providers do in this regard. So, but we recognize that there still needs to be an extensibility story. We're not always going to meet your needs. Nobody's ever going to meet your needs. Every company's unique. That's why you're in business. So with Power Apps embedding, so you saw, maybe you noticed I didn't say to it, you'll see it tomorrow, another teaser to come to tomorrow's session as well if you can. But in that experience of that onboarding experience, maybe there's an activity that you need to do, such as you need that employee to, say, pick the PC that they want to do. Maybe you want to give them an option of selection of computers to pick. So you can actually build a Power App that picks your inventory of PCs. They can go in an embedded experience without leaving onboard, access that Power App, pick it, a flow would then generate and kick off that order to IT, so IT knows and matches that in their administrative checklist of what the employee has selected. So all of that can come together. So as we look at our extensibility, embedding Power Apps, embedded Power BI for your reporting aspect, Microsoft Flow for your orchestration engine, notification tools, the ability to move and notify people of data changes. Working with app source integration, these third parties I talked about, so that you can extend it to third-party services. If there's ISVs in the room or partners in the room that need to build special functionality for the industry that they specialize in, they can do the same and would be able to bring products into the app source integration with that. We're working on connectors with ATS, again, to that standalone play. A lot of the key ATS and big ATS providers out there, we're working to get connectors so that their data can come into the CDS and you can use these experiences on top of those. So we're working with a lot of these things. Assessments and verification plugins. I'm going to make one more plug for tomorrow's session. But there's actually another tool that we've built. There is a fourth piece to Talent that we've built that hasn't released yet. Where we call that Gauge. So Gauge is an actual test builder application where you can actually go in and build a test or a survey with that, and you can plug that into these processes. So oftentimes in your hiring or your onboarding, you may need the employee to take a test, just a basic test, true, false, multiple choice, open-ended type questions. You can create that test and plug that in as an activity in your onboarding or your hiring stage, or a survey during your onboarding to make sure your onboarding activities are really meeting the needs of the employee and help balance that. So you can create those and plug those into the system. Now on the onboarding side, there's a few enhancements that we'll be doing as well. I showed you the automatic contact suggestion, kind of that vision of what we're doing. So these are people that you went to school with, etc. But we'll also be doing bulk onboarding. So I can create a guide once, and I can actually assign that out to n number of people if I needed to quickly get some folks out there. We actually have a lot of, onboarding is actually an interesting app. So there's other use case scenarios. It's not all about, I've got a new hire and I need to get them to be successful in the organization. We've got customers that are actually looking at it in a completely different light. Because it's not bound to your employee record. The employee is just one person you can use. They're actually using it for, maybe I'm spinning up a new project and I need everybody on the project team to go through this checklist to be successful and kick this project off. We've worked with other organizations, relief organizations, that we're working with one that basically, they've got a lot of external people that they need to go through that, a relocation process or something like that. I mean, all of the activities that are going on in the world today, when we can get this functionality, they can help those individuals know what they need to do in a relocation effort or an emergency effort and stuff like that. So there's a lot of use cases for onboarding that we're actually looking at expanding that out to as well. Enhancing the experience again, core HR integration. So we saw the checklist capability. Well, those checklists are mainly for that administrative onboarding, but there are administrative tasks that the employee needs to do. We will have it so that when there are tasks that are assigned to the employee in core HR, those will automatically load into their onboarding guide as well. So they have that one onboarding experience. Not only is it go read the employee handbook, but it's all, or fill out your paperwork, but it's also get to know these people. So you make that a very single list, one place for that employee to have that rich onboarding experience. Now moving into the core HR roadmap here and where we're going with that over the next time period is integration. So core HR, again, built on top of the operations framework, but natively integrated with the CDS. We already have some scenarios enabled in that. You saw how I hired Cameron and his record showed up in core HR ready to hire him. So there's some integration that we're naming, and we're enabling more and more scenarios in that regard there. But we'll also be taking talent so that you can actually use it directly on top of finance and operations. Now, finance and operations already has an HR module in it if you're familiar with that. But all of the growth and everything that we're going to be building is going to be going into talent at this point. So using talent as the HR solution in your Dynamics 365 solution is the direction that we will be looking for customers to go in the future. I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. So we are building an integration to finance and operations. We're also building it back to AX 2012. So AX 2012 customers that aren't quite ready to move to the cloud for their ERP suite, but are okay and looking for new solutions or new experiences on top of their existing HR solutions will be able to use this with their employee records and all of their skills and everything that you need, pushing back into the ERP system so that you can still maintain your project functionality in your shop floor manufacturing, etc. Payroll is another big area. So we do not, how many of you are familiar with the payroll scenarios that we do have in finance and operations today? So we have a US payroll module. We also have a Russian payroll module in AX 2012. Those will stay in finance and operations. Dynamics 365 for Talent will not have a payroll module with it. It needs all the finance pieces, and that's not key to what we're doing here. We're working with global payroll providers to have integrations with these large providers that most everybody's familiar with out there. But again, back to the integration with finance and operations, the payroll module that we do have today will stay in finance and operations, but maintaining your employees and all of the information you need to do in talent is over there already, so payroll is still functional and moving forward. So you think it's kind of changing the gears. Oftentimes, and in the past, we've thought about, I've got my CRM, I've got my ERP, I've got my HR, or those that are thinking HR in my ERP. We need to be thinking about it a little differently because it's really Dynamics 365, and that's the level that we need to be thinking of, and I have different pieces of it. Talent is where you manage your employees and your staff and your talent. ERP, finance and operation, is where you manage your finances and your operations. CRM is where you manage, but they're all talking to the CDS, so they're all sharing that data across, and that's where we're going with all of this. Again, more integrations into the onboarding experience. I talked about those activities coming from checklists into the onboard app. Compensation management. We have a pretty robust, rich compensation analytics tool in Core HR where you can build out all of your compensation models and push them and do calculations for different raises. We'll actually be bringing an experience to the manager in the self-service so that they can play into that. So HR is going to run those initial models, push those out to the employee or the managers who will approve, maybe make recommendations, suggestions, making that a collaborative experience between your comp and benefits folks and HR and the managers more so. An integration with the performance functionality that we have in Core HR. Leave and absence is a new piece of functionality that actually released with Dynamics 365 for Talent Core HR. That came out. We can do continual enhancements to that, adding more rule types, more flexibility and capability. Leave and absence is probably one of the most most difficult areas of the system with that, and time and attendance to make it more configurable to meet the needs of different geographies and industries and so forth. So more and more capability will be coming out in that space. Open enrollment benefits. So we have right now we can manage all of your benefits. We can manage all of the plans, the enrollments and that, but we don't have that open enrollment, that employee-facing side where they're going to pick their benefits. That's coming this fall. So it's not just when a new hire starts, it's also life event changes. Maybe they had a baby, maybe they moved. This is pretty US-centric, but the functionality is built globally because the US isn't the only place where employees still need to pick their benefits. There are optional benefits that global employers have as well, and it'll work with that as well. We're working on integrations, generic integrations to pump that data and bring that in and out with your benefit providers and so forth so that you can manage that as well. The user experience, so again, it's built on finance and operations, but yet the UI that you saw, a lot of it was very people-focused and centric. We're redoing that UI. Now, as you go through the application, I'll be honest, there's still places that look like finance and operations. We haven't reskinned and gotten through everything. So we're going to continue to bring that people-focused experience. It's a big thing to go over and overhaul all at once, but so you'll see more and more experiences becoming more overhauled in that as we do that. Additional fields, you saw me do that additional fields extension for the worker entity. We'll be bringing that to position and some of the other key entities because we know you don't just track everything at a worker level. You need to track something maybe at the position or the job or those other levels, or even on other. We don't have the full list of where we're rolling that out, but we'll get those core entities that you use in HR first. Power BI reporting, I showed you some of the things that we have. So again, to that extensibility play, reporting is probably the #1 extended area of any system out there. Rarely do we ever meet the exact needs with your reporting coming out, and you need to modify those. So there's a number of options with your core HR data. Not only is Power BI a great solution to be able to do that, but there's also how many of you are familiar with the global electronic reporting capability that's in finance and operations? It's a tool where you can build very complex reports and data exports that meet specific needs to integrate with certain government agencies or industries or unions or whatever you need to do from that aspect. So this is an extensibility story, but it can create all of your reports for you in various formats, and you can create and extend the product from a reporting standpoint with that. More Power BI embedded in more and more workspaces. Again, I showed you the visualizations in the Power BI. Right now it's all kind of there. You can't click through to get to the raw data behind the scenes. That'll be coming later this fall where I see a report, I get a list, I want to know where's the data that's coming from and go to the actual list of workers, the list of benefits that's driving that data. I can click through and it'll take me right to that raw data so that I can understand the nuances or fix the data if I see anomalies or errors in that data. Again, coming back to that, I alluded to this concept of the finance and operations. So finance and operations does have an HR module within it. We will not be doing any further investment in enhancing that functionality in Core HR or in the HR module in finance and operations. All investment will go towards the talent solution going forward. Eventually, we will actually be turning that off for new acquisitions. Customers that are running it, we're of course going to support them and maintain that for them at the level of functionality that it has today. Of course, we're going to encourage customers to move over to talent. The talent licensing is included in finance and operations, so it's not that you have to buy another product. It's included, so you can migrate that data over and start using talent as we meet your needs in the talent solution. But as we do that, I talked about the integration back to finance and operations. So employees, skills, All of that information that project and shop floor and manufacturing still need to maintain their operational activities will still be enabled, payroll, et cetera. So again, it's thinking at that Dynamics 365 level, not at finance and operations and talent as separate solutions. Additional scenarios are going to be, we have a duplicate on that user-defined field. UDF is our little acronym. I really should fix that. User-defined fields, bringing that to more places. Additional workflows. So when an employee needs to modify their data, most of that is workflow enabled so that you can control what they're putting in on their employee record. There's a couple of things where we still need to add some workflow too. We're doing further enhancements on the employee self-service and manager self-service, which I'll be showing in greater depth tomorrow. We have the concept of personnel actions. So are you guys familiar with the personnel actions that's in the HR module today? Those are in talent as well. What it is it allows you to basically set up an action like hiring, doing a compensation change. There's a number of activities in there, skipping my mind right now. But basically you can templatize and workflow those processes. Maybe there's certain approvals that finance has to approve or somebody in your division's budget and so forth. But we're adding additional action types of promotion. So if you need to promote somebody, it'll walk you through that process of promoting them with proper workflow. So that's the roadmap. That all of that stuff that I just talked about is all stuff that we're in active development right now, working to bring between now and the end of this calendar year. That will not be coming in one big release. We don't release in the twice-a-year release fashion with talent. We release as we finish functionality. So again, it's coming back to being a true SaaS product. We will release those to you as we finish the product. So we don't tie it to specific release cycles with talent. The entire suite of talent is available in a free trial. So if you go to that URL, if you don't want to remember that URL, just go to dynamics.com. And scroll down, you'll see a tile for talent. Click on that, that takes you to this URL. That's a shortcut. So, but talent, there's a lot of information, more information about talent out there. You click the link, you sign up for that trial. It's a free 60-day trial. We have sample data in there to get familiar and play with the systems and get to know those. Again, even when you're in the trial, as we're rolling out new functionality, your trial is going to be updated too. So you're going to always be seeing the latest as you're going through that activity. I talked about, in a couple of months, Attract and Onboard will be available to purchase standalone. So you'll be able to even just try Attract as just the app. Right now, the trial gives you the full suite of applications. But you can pick and choose and purchase those other two directly in coming months. We do, again, I've put 100 plugs in already for the session tomorrow, but these are the session details that I was talking about. And you can see Michelle and I will be doing that one again. But I will be focusing mainly in that demo there on walking through the experience from the employee and the manager point of view. Today we focus more on the HR professional with a little dancing across the employee manager view as we went in there. So we got, I left a whopping 45 seconds for questions, but a lot of material to cover. So I hope I've shown you and given you a good overview for talent here today. But you know, I can stick around and answer some questions if there's any. You know, we've taken a minute and ask if there's any burning ones really quick.
One final thing before we get to questions. Please remember to fill out your session evaluations. Those are really important for improving the experience in the next year. So we look forward to the feedback that you guys send us. So please do take time to do that.
Yeah. All right. So how is it licensed? So there's three, again, it's changing a little bit because you will be able to get those two solutions standalone, but talent as a whole is licensed in three ways. If you're familiar with the plan options in the Dynamics 365, we've got this level. So if you buy Dynamics 365, you get everything under the sun and not licensed talent's included in that. If you buy just the Unified Operations license, which is the ERP, it's included in that. So that includes retail, talent, and Power Apps is included in that. Or talent can be bought standalone as its own license. Right now, talent, when bought standalone, does require 5 of the talent licenses. But talent, all of the employee, the manager capability that you've seen throughout these apps uses the same team member license that works across all of Dynamics. So if you already own team member licenses for these experiences because you have them for CRM or you have them for else, you actually already have use rights to attract and onboard, because those are already enabled. Now, to get the employee self-service and all of the other capability that's in the core HR product, you do have to at least buy 5 licenses of Talent in order to light up that core HR environment to turn that on. But the use rights comes with the team member license to those things. So we are looking at getting rid of that. Not promising, we're hoping to get rid of that 5 user license minimum, because we recognize not everybody needs 5 of those HR professionals. So, yeah. It does not, because this is a cloud-specific solution. It's the new product, so it requires its own licensing. So if you are going to remain on 2012 and use Talent, you will have to buy the licenses for the standalone licenses for Talent to integrate that data back. And it's because we're hosting all of the systems and services. It's the coverage of those where you've got your on-prem for AX 2012. And speaking of on-prem, Talent is SaaS. It will not be an on-prem solution like Finance and Operations is allowing. That we will be pure SaaS, cloud only. So, all right. Thanks everybody, and hope to see you tomorrow.